Good morning, folks. Beautiful Saturday morning in February now. And I'll tell you, it doesn't feel like February, but it is. And Ken is on assignment, but he's calling in this morning. Morning, Ken. How you doing, buddy?
Good morning, Don and everyone. Yeah, it's going really well this morning. It's a beautiful morning. It's still mild out there, like you were saying. It's not like winter here in the Okanagan. It's not normal.
I get a kick, well, not get a kick out of it, but the advertisement for you folks in Vernon, the Vernon Winter Carnival. We've had we used to have the Snow Fest here in Kelowna, and periodically we'd have a winter like this where there's no snow. It's kind of hard to do a snow fest with no snow. But anyway, that is the way it goes. Let's do the tips and plants of the week, Ken.
You betcha.
My tip of the week is if you come across used white Venetian blinds, don't throw them out. They make a great plant tag. Cut them up into various sizes, small plants, big plants, you got it. They have the UV protection, and that's right there. You can pick them up probably pretty cheap at one of the restore places, or you can, if you're renovating, you might find, don't throw them out. Ordinary lead pencils will last for years on those white Venetian blinds. My plant of the week is another group, Gasteria, the Gasteria group. One of my favorites, very succulent plant, easy to plant, easy to grow, very easy to grow. And it's a lot of different names. Common names include ox tongue or cow tongue, lawyer's tongue. I like the lawyer's tongue one. And occasionally a mother-in-law's tongue. There you have it.
Sounds great. I also have a tip and a plant this week, and my tip of the week is that, this spring when you're starting to plan your vegetable garden, you should come up with a source for some alfalfa that's been pelletized. So pelletized alfalfa is one of the nicer products that you can add to your vegetable garden. You can dig that in nice and deep. It's easy to apply because it is in a pellet form, and it supplies quite a bit of nitrogen to your vegetable garden for this season, and you can reapply it at any time. It does puff up quite a bit, so get ready for that when you add water, but it is a great addition to a vegetable garden, and your plants will be super happy that you did add some alfalfa pellets to your vegetable plan. All right, my plant of the week, this is also a group of plants, which is not as easy to take care of, but they're so beautiful. Don's talking about the easy to take care of ones, and I'm talking about the more difficult ones, but calathea is one of the most beautiful house plants that's super easy to grow if you know a couple secrets. And really, the ultimate secret is to know what variety to pick, because many of them, they have these beautiful striped foliage. They can have big leaves or small leaves or narrow leaves. Very, very wide scope of different types of plants in the Calathea group. They're a great house plant, and it all has to do with your water supply. So if you're in areas where you have nice soft water naturally, they will be really happy. If you're in areas where you have a lot of salt in your water, like I do, they're not going to be very happy. But they like to stay warm, and the ultimate thing is getting the right variety. So the one I like is the Ruffabarba, which is the Calathea Ruffabarba, and it's kind of a narrow leaf type that has a reddish color on the undersides, and they're a little bit fuzzy. But that's a much easier variety of Calathea to start with, and that gives you your first success with that plant in almost any climate. And then you can try different varieties as they come up. It's just a really cool plant to grow. They don't particularly like to be too dry, so it's kind of a real interesting plant. But if you look them up, they're such a beautiful foliage plant, one of my favorites. And check it out. It's a good one. So that's my tips and plants for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com and Grower Coach on YouTube, and remember to buy local.
There you go, Ken. Hey, I was just looking again at my notes here. The genus Gasteria is named. This is the cool thing. We talk quite a bit about common names and what the botanical names mean and everything. And there's so much more information in the botanical name. The genus is named after its stomach-shaped flowers.
Huh.
And like you've often said, Ken, the flowers are always the connection between the plants in a specific genus. The flowers are the thing that are similar. Sometimes, like the gasteria, the little warty that is a common gasteria, and the other one, the other one I have pictured here is a real thick-leafed one. They don't look alike at all. I mean, you look at those plants, you say, is that the same genus? No, you wouldn't think so. But when they bloom, the bloom looks the same or similar. And they're stomach-shaped. And gaster, Gaster, is Greek for stomach.
Oh, there you go.
So that's where gasteria comes from, because the bloom is like a stomach, and that's Greek for stomach, gaster.
Well, that is very interesting. I didn't really realize that at all. Yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah.
It's always good to look these things up, and just to get a little more info and figure it out. It's great.
Well, that's what keeps my interest going, Ken, is the diversity and the interest, the connections between them. And nowadays, the changes that they're making, putting groups, taking plants out of groups and putting them in another group because genetically that just didn't make sense. And, even though the flowers look the same, they're just genetically not the same. So sometimes that can fool you. That's why over the years, until modern science came along, they were going strictly by that. What's the shape of the flower really is what they were going by. Yeah. Yeah,
and it's just fascinating. And like you're saying, there's so many new plants as well coming down the pipes. Like the plant breeding rate now is just, it's hitting a feverish pace, and there are so many new plants, especially in the houseplant category. There's just a vast number of new types of plants that you can't even begin to talk about. But the one thing that I've learned a little bit about recently was just about the new plants that are coming out of China. And they're kind of a little bit hard to get right now, but I'm really hoping that they pick up speed in the future, because their plant breeding programs are just unbelievable. And some of the new cool plants and stuff that they introduce every year, they have literally hundreds of new plants that they introduce. But some of them are just amazing and hard to believe that some of these plants even exist. They're just so interesting and so cool. And it's something to, I'm looking forward to it, even though I don't know how much room I'm going to have for house plants. But it's not just house plants. I mean, they do all kinds of plants. But house plants are just, for me, it's just another very interesting topic that you can, like you say, it's such a vast industry. You can just study houseplants, and that'll keep you going for the rest of your life.
I wonder what the tariff situation is going to be on Chinese plant introductions. Who knows?
I don't think. Who knows? I don't think there'd be a lot, but it's just amazing that the difference. Like when there's a few YouTube channels that I follow that are just all about tropical plants, and they travel all around the world and go to these trade shows and things where they're introducing new plants, and it's mind-boggling. There's so much out there.
It's crazy. So we're going to talk about lots of things today. I've got a whole kind of a program set up, because I knew you wouldn't be here for the whole show. So I got a whole program set up on beneficial insects and what we can do to encourage them into our gardens, and especially the fact that now it's getting to the point where large farms, cornfields, that sort of thing, they're planting strips of native plants right down the middle of the farm to encourage the beneficial insects. And there's just so many of them out there that it's and so I got some neat stuff to talk about once that comes up today. We also want to talk about the fact I'm going to have probably working with Dan Bruce. We're going to be putting on a show, a succulent show, Africa, and also the cacti family from the Western Hemisphere, at the Kelowna Garden Club's flower show. But here's the big news. The flower show is being moved. It's not going to be at Gushiken this year. The flower show is being moved. the Gushigan area was getting to be a bit tight, and the walking on the lawn was a little bit rough on some of the folks that were coming in wheelchairs and things like that. That it's just a little difficult to get around. So they've moved it to the Evangel Church on Gordon Drive, and that's where we have our meetings with the flower show, with the garden club, and so that's where that show's going to be, and it's towards the end of June. So there's a long way to think about it, but it's going to be good, and we are really going to encourage people to enter into the contest of the floral displays and whatnot. But there's also going to be a section where you don't have to enter for prizes or ribbons. You don't have to enter the contest. Just bring your stuff and show it off, you know. And that's kind of what I'm doing with my succulent collection. And we're going to bring a nice selection of succulents and talk about that. So that's coming up in June, yeah. And there's all sorts of things. Victoria's Seedy Sunday is coming up. We're going to talk about that when we come back, because we're going to take a short break now, Ken. And then we're going to talk about the Victoria Seedy Sunday, which is coming up real quick here. And,
cool.
And we've got a Seedy Sunday coming up ourselves and other great gardening endeavors coming up. So we'll talk about that when we come back with the Garden Show after this short break. Well, we're back with you. Later on in the show as well, I'm going to talk about the European wall lizard. A real nice person called me up and reminded me that when we talked about that last week, I wasn't aware of it because I'm not aware of everything, and I looked it up, and sure enough, it is a real issue there. It's very invasive. It was introduced way back. A small zoo in Nanaimo, I understand, closed down in early 70s, and they let 5 or 6 of these babies go out in the wild. And since then, it's just expanded. It's just they're crazy because they do consume and chase down and consume some of our native lizards and newts and what's not, and they also eat other native things, and so it's not a good balance. Somewhere where they came from originally, they're probably okay because they probably have checks and balances there. But here they don't. They don't have whatever checks and balances they have back in Europe.
That's sort of typical, I think, of a lot of these invasive species is that they, in their native lands, they're really not a problem at all. They just kind of do their thing. I always think of knapweed, like knapweed here in British Columbia is just amazing, 50,000 acres a year, and probably even more than that now. That was 20 years ago, they talked about 50,000 acres a year get taken over by knapweed. But in their homeland, you have to search for the plant. You got to try to find it. It's kind of a bit. It's not that it's rare. It's just that it just doesn't proliferate.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes they do things that haven't been successful, but had a negative impact, like the Myces shrimp they introduced into the Okanagan Lake years ago to feed the kokanee, right? But the Myces shrimp, I think, turned around and started eating the baby kokanees or something that came into the lake. Something crazy like that.
The microbes that the little fish, the fry, eat, where their populations dwindled because the shrimp were eating them.
Yeah. So
and that had
you got to be careful.
It's very tricky. Yeah, nature has its balance, and you don't want to be throwing any wrenches into the program. But I guess we're in a world where everything is everywhere all the time. So yeah, good luck with that, I guess.
Oh, it's a big deal. When we look at these invasive mussels that they're talking about. Anyway, there's lots of negative. We don't want it to be too negative. We got spring ahead of us here, Ken, and we're going into spring, and it's so exciting about the fact that we're getting there. The days are now well over an hour and a half longer than they would be right on the 22nd of December. We are experiencing temperatures that are a little bit too mild, in my opinion. We would like to have some cool temperatures. We are getting some coming up right now. They're coming up down to, below freezing in the evening at night, coming up in the next couple of weeks, but nothing what we really should have. A good nail down to 15, minus 15 to kind of nail a few things, but that's not happening.
It's looking a little rough right now because I was just out at a site that was near the lake, and the maple trees had their flowers already forming.
Oh boy!
On the tree, right? So that they weren't open yet, but you could see the buds had already elongated and formed the little base stem for the flowers. So, yikes! A minus 15 would be a little scary, but anyway, we'll hang in there.
Yeah. And hey, I've got garlic flushing up nicely in the garden now.
Oh,
Last week there was just little tips putting through. Now I got about an inch of growth, and it's kind of exciting. I love the garlic. I love harvesting garlic. It's the one thing I can grow really well in the garden with no pests, no problems. And, of course, again, I mentioned, speaking of pests, this year I'm going to be removing all the blooms off my kiwi vines to make sure there's no kiwis formed. And that should knock the spotted wing Drosophila population back a bit. We often mention that with cherries. If you have cherry fruit fly, for instance, the worm in the cherry, the worst thing a person can do is say, oh, well, I'm not going to eat the cherries. I'll let the birds have them, and because they got worms, and I'm not. That's the worst thing a person could do because you just proliferate the problem, and so really, if a person has cherry fruit fly and you don't want to go through the spray program, which is can be done and commercially, right? But if you don't want to deal with that, then as a good neighbor and as a good citizen, you should pick all those cherries and bury them. Pick them and just bury them in a pit, or put them in the green bin and send them out to the dump. Pick
them green, really.
And pick them green. Exactly, pick them green.
Yeah.
And
if you're not using them, don't just leave them.
Yeah, they're hard to find when they're green, though, Ken. They're not sitting out like red-nosed reindeers.
Yeah.
But that's the key. And it's the same thing with apples, with codling moth. If you've got a codling moth issue, and you don't have a lot of apples around your neighborhood, like apple trees, your neighbors don't have them. Same with the cherries. Then picking that fruit for a year or 2 years will really knock that population down. Because let's face it, if a fruit fly comes in and lays eggs in your cherry tree, and you dispose of them, there's no cherries for them to lay on or whatever. If you dispose them before they lay their eggs, hey, there's no progeny. They're just gonna they'll fly around looking for a cherry tree and can't find one and die looking. So there you go. That's one of the safe ways to deal with that problem. Yeah. So coming up again, we've got the Victoria Seedy Sunday coming up, and that is an exciting thing to do, and we will talk about that in a second here. I've just got somebody dinging me here, Ken, but that's okay. We can get by with that. We don't have to. The Victoria Seedy Sunday is on February 1st. It's done. It was Victoria Seedy Saturday. Boy, what am I talking about here, Ken? I'm upside down. I got so many seedy stuffs going on here. No, the Victoria Seedy Saturday was February 1st, 2026. That was last Saturday. So that was the day we were kicking it off. So when I was preparing last night, I just didn't notice that. But hey, these Seedy Saturdays and Sundays are great. You're going to be appearing at the Kelowna Seedy Sunday coming up, right?
Yeah, well, I usually typically get a booth there, and I just answer questions for people. And we talk about horticulture and about people's issues or problems and questions that they have. We'll be, promoting my consulting and teaching opportunities, public speaking, that sort of thing, so that if people want to hire me to come out and give them a little bit of on-site training or, whatever it is they need. So I always set that up at the CD Sunday here in Kelowna. This year, I believe it's on the 8th, correct?
Yeah, I was just looking at that. Boy, I think during the break, which is coming up, I'm going to get my ducks in a row here, because I'm seeing some more stuff that I'm making mistakes on, and I don't want to make mistakes.
Well, remember that you can go to that to the seeds.ca website, and that's the Seeds of Diversity, and they are just fabulous. They're the ones who actually set up these CD Sundays and CD Saturdays around the country. So if you have a community and you don't have one of these, you might want to communicate with them and see if you can set something up. Or if you're wondering, I wonder what day it is this year, well, you can set that up as well. So, check it out on the site. They're all listed there.
Well, before I open my lips again, I'm going to really study this because I've got it all written down, but there's something confusing here, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that right after. But I am going to talk about bugs later on too. Because there's such a negative sensitivity regarding bugs to many people. Like puppies are cuddly, but spiders are, the evil and creepy and evil empire. Even sayings like, this really bugs me, or there's a bug in this machine, or common grievances. And then we often say when I'm ticked off, it refers to ticks, which are troublesome at times, where they do fit into the natural rhythm of life. And and I'm sure there have been studies giving them a clear mandate to exist, I guess. And age-old saying, when you wouldn't like somebody to be, around somebody, or with somebody, would you like them to leave? You bugger off. That's what. These are sayings that we use when it comes to bugs, because there's such a negative thing to them. But I'm going to be talking positive stuff on the bugs as we go through the show here, and we're getting down to the bottom of the hour. We've got. What do we have here? We have somebody calling in, I think. Well, we can't tell for sure. But this is, Oh, I haven't got my notice. I haven't got my notice yet. Yeah, we got a new guy on the board here, Grinder, and he's.
Oh, great! He's really new.
Yeah, he's a newbie. Yeah, right. No, he's been around a long time. What we'll do is we'll take that break. Should we? Yeah, we're going to take a short break. Get our ducks in a row here, folks. Stay tuned. Don't drop out of sight, because we're coming back with lots of excitement. And we'll be back with The Garden Show after this short break. Okay, we're back with you on a beautiful Saturday morning. I just want to clarify one thing before I get phoned and chastised. The Victoria CD Saturday is actually February 14th. The February 1st I was talking about is when they sent it in the second. February 1st, Victoria CD Saturday is February 1st. It's not. That's when they sent the email to me. It's actually on the February 14th, and we'll cover that a little bit better as we can. This next weekend. So,
and just to also note that Penticton is also one of our listeners. There are on the 21st of February. That's when they're having theirs at the Senior Center, and everybody's welcome to show up for that. So there's another one, Penticton, on February 21st.
February 21st. Okay, now we've got two fine listeners waiting to have a chat with us. One is Ariel, and we're going to go to her first. Ariel, good morning.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. I called you, and I want to ask a question. Where did the name and how did it become the name called succulents?
Well, succulents is because it's, generally speaking, a succulent plant has thick flesh where it stores water, and that's called a succulent. And some succulents are not as succulent as others, but others, like for instance, a jade plant is very soft, succulent stems and whatever. And then you get my little Monopedium rubellum, which is a very heavy caudex root mound, same as on your ponytail palms. They're called a succulent as well, but they're not thick, heavy leaves like a jade plant. They have that big caudex root that is storing the moisture. So succulents really, I guess, Ken, what would you say? Just they store moisture.
Yeah, well, like cactuses and that sort of thing. Yeah. But the question is, where did the name come from? And that's probably some sort of a Latin.
Yeah, well, it could, yeah. Well, we got
Dan. I would know that.
There's a question we're going to ask Dan Bruce. Dan Bruce is coming on after you, and we'll just ask Dan. Dan will know.
We know what it is. We just don't know where did it come from.
Where did the word come from? That's what you're asking?
Wonderful.
Well,
you got me.
Okay, dear. Let's ask Dan. Okay. Right on.
Bye.
Take care. Okay. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks for calling.
Yeah. And we've got Dan Bruce joining us. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning.
Yeah. Did you hear the question?
Good morning.
Where did the word succulent come from?
Well, that's a word used to describe something that is sort of juicy.
Okay. But,
And succulents in general are, at least some part of them is juicy. Because
it's like
most often the leaves that store water.
right. But Ariel's asking where it's like, the word gasteria, okay, comes from the Greek gaster, which means stomach. And that's the bloom is shaped like a stomach. And so it's called, the genus is gasteria. Where did succulent come from? But that's not a genus. That's not Latin, is it? Succulent. So I don't know where that word came from.
It probably does come from Latin, but I mean, the word succulent is in the English language as a descriptor for something that's juicy.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's enough said about that. We'll have lots of calls, I'm sure, explaining.
The steak I had last night was very succulent.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's right. Perfect.
Yes.
Dan, what have you got up your sleeve today?
Well, I was out there in the garden and I discovered that a plant that I thought was dead isn't dead.
Oh, that's one of them beautiful turn-ons that we talked about last week.
And it's Clematis henryi.
Oh, right on. Yeah, big white one.
It's a big white, large clematis. But then I got to thinking about clematis and decided that my good friend Captain Stoltz here in Kelowna has offered me some root of one that he's got at his house, and I'm trying to encourage him to proceed with that idea.
Is that fall bloom that Catlin has?
It's a small yellow flowered job. Yes.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Which I think is either Clematis orientalis or Tangutica. I can't, until I actually get my hands on it, I can't tell.
Right.
But there are quite a number of Clematis out there. 297 species.
Oh.
Ooh.
And that's not even touching on the varieties and the
That's not touching the varieties. That's just wild species.
How many? 250?
297.
Holy mackerel.
And two of them are native to BC.
Okay. What part of BC?
Right here.
In the Okanagan.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh. I've seen the native Lonicera, the honeysuckle, quite often when I'm up in the bush.
That's not a clematis, though.
No, I know. I'm just saying. I've seen the Lonicera. I haven't seen the clematis. Now, is it clematis or is it clematis? Come on.
It's either way you want it.
Okay.
As Shakespeare said, as you like it.
Yeah, there you go.
No, there's the blue-flowered one, Clematis columbiana. And there are two of them growing in the garden here. I didn't plant them. They are natural growing things.
And they are a vine.
Yes.
Yep.
The thing about that one is that it kind of sneaks up on you. And all of a sudden you realize it's in full flower.
Oh.
Now, the flowers are not at all like henryi, which is one of the big, almost dinner plate-sized, outward-facing flowers. No, columbiana, the flowers hang in little bells, and they're blue. But every time this one has, the one that's closest to the house has flowered, it's always taken me by surprise. You suddenly realize, oh, yeah, there it is. Forgot about that.
And it just blooms the once, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And so, I've got a clematis that I got from Helen, and I don't know the name of it. It's a red. And that darn thing, it just kept blooming all year long. I was sending pictures to Ken, texting him pictures of this thing, that red one, Ken? And it just never stopped blooming. Middle of December, it was still in bloom. before that first frost came.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, I'm planning on putting in a couple of more clematis plants this spring, and rumor has reached me that the greenery is going to open on the 28th, I think, of February.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Sounds
So that's
exciting.
an early bloomer.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I will go up there and see what they've got. They usually carry quite a selection of cultivated clematis, but they won't have them till a bit later in the year.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I'm excited too because up until this last few years, I've never owned a clematis, and so now I have two of them that are really, really very good, and I got them from Helen. And one of them I've moved from where we put that new rose for Lisa, our daughter. Put the rose there and took the clematis out and put it on another one where I usually have sweet peas or some other annual thing that I'll grow. But now it's got a home there. That trellis is going to have the clematis on it. And I'm going to be trellising like crazy, Dan. I've got another rose trellis on the go here. It's more of a columnar, what do they call that? The columnar trellis type thing. And I've got
some people call them
obelisks or whatever, that kind of shape. It's a tall, narrow thing. And it's really neat. I'm really excited about those narrow structures because they're going to hold the rose, sort of in a columnar fashion so that it doesn't infringe on other people's territory around the garden,
Right.
And,
right.
quite.
And, of course, the word obelisk does come from Greek.
Oh.
And it means roasting spit.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Obelisk is a roasting spit. And did the Egyptians call them obelisks too? Or just...
No, that's a Greek word.
It's a Greek word.
Yes,
yeah.
But the Egyptians certainly were keen on making them and putting them up.
And then the Americans grabbed one and put it in Washington Square or whatever it was. I think there's one there, an obelisk of some sort.
There's the Washington Monument, which is a giant obelisk, but it's put together a number of pieces.
Oh, okay.
The Egyptian ones are one single stone.
Yeah, amazing.
Mm. Wow.
And there is one Egyptian one in New York in Central Park.
Okay.
In fact, there's a number of them all over the place because at one point the rulers of Egypt, the pashas, were quite prepared to give these as gifts to foreign countries. There's one in London, several in Rome, Paris.
Wow, that's
York.
Interesting. That's fascinating.
And the one in London, Cleopatra's Needle, of course, that was given to Britain by the Egyptians, and they made a special container to tow it behind a ship to sail from Egypt to England, and it broke loose in the Bay of Biscay.
Oh dear!
And they had to go rescue it, but they did succeed in recapturing it and bringing it onto London.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yes.
Dan, we're going to have to run here, but we always appreciate having a chat with you on a Saturday morning, and the spring is around the corner. We're going to be all gardening out there, and I'm sure you will be too.
I think that's likely.
And I just mentioned earlier that there's a change in the Gushiken show. The Kelowna Garden Club is now going to have the show at the Evangel Church on Gordon. And that's a change they're making for various reasons, and I'll give you a shout and we'll talk about it. But they're wanting me to put a presentation of succulents on, so I thought I'd join up with my old pal Dan Bruce and do it together. We're going to do a succulent presentation, so it'll be cacti and all sorts of succulent genus out there. We'll have some fun with that. Okay?
Sounds good.
There you go, buddy. Take care. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Sam.
Bye-bye.
Now. Bye.
There we go. On the air, I've just made him realize that he has to do something he may or may not want to do, but hey, he has to now because I've said it on the
Now
air.
he has to. That's right. You're in like Flynn.
That's right. Ken, we're going to take another short break here, and we'll be back with the Garden Show after this short break. Ken, I've been corrected again. It's interesting because we really appreciate people listening and correcting us. It reminds me of the time when I came up to a customer in the garden center and I said, "Can I help you, ma'am?" And she says, "No, I'm beyond help." and that's kind of how I'm feeling right now. But no, CJ from Central Saanich gave me the correction here, and I haven't looked up the site, but she said the zoo started from Brentwood Bay Sanitary in the 1960s. By 2008, in Central Saanich, they were overtaken by the lizards. In the 60s, I like the brown salamanders on our farm. I do not like these lizards, which have replaced the salamanders in the area now. Way too many. Saw these lizards even munch on my cherry tomatoes and round cucumbers years ago. And I was looking up, and these little guys, they bite. And they can hurt you when they bite. They don't have. I think they may even have a toxin because they're talking about some lymph node swelling and that sort of thing. So there may be a toxin in there. So not a good thing. One of those introduced things. And CJ, I appreciate your input here. And she also wants us to talk about the tools. Remember, I mentioned we're going to talk about how to take care of garden tools and sharpen them and keep them clean and in good shape. So we're going to do that. We'll do that in one of the subsequent shows here when people start pulling their tools out, which is pretty soon. The tools are going to come out of the shed pretty quick here.
Absolutely, yeah. And and I know you've talked a lot about that over the years about how to take care of them. So I think you'll be able to add to some of that here fairly soon. But yeah, it's a real important thing. And this time of year, we are starting to look at things. I think it's just the weather. I mean, lots of stuff is getting done outdoors here in the Okanagan. I mean, wow, it's so beautiful out. You know, there's no reason to, other than we always say, like, gee, I sure hope it doesn't get too much colder, but you just never know what's going to happen. But with pruning, you generally want to wait, as far as fruit trees go, is that you wait until the brunt of winter is over, at least for residential pruning. And you just wait as long as you can until, typically for us in the Okanagan, we're pruning our fruit trees right at the beginning of March or end of February. And in other areas it's usually a little bit earlier if you're coastal, or a little bit later if you're even a little colder than we are here. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge this year. We're not really sure. We could be doing it right now. I don't think it's going to kill the trees, but boy, I'm just worried about how many buds might die if we do get a hard snap. And then, then maybe you want to wait just in case, because let's say if you have a percentage of your buds all freeze, then you may not have to worry about it, or maybe you can kind of prune around it a bit and leave more buds than you normally would.
Fruiting
buds, so at least you get some fruit.
Yeah. Ken, we got some calls coming in, but we just want to reiterate that Victoria Seedy Saturday is, in fact, on February 14th, which is next week. It's Valentine's Day, and I'll talk more about that as the show goes on here, but we do have some callers calling in, and I'm going to go right to them in a second here, if I can find Grinder. There we go. We've got Shirley on line one. Good morning, Shirley.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Good. You?
That's good. Excellent. Thank you.
Yes. I have a deer problem. Yes, and there's about 20 of them now. So, and they're eating pretty well everything I have. So.
Well, they make good eating, if you got a big freezer. No, I was just kidding. That's not very nice. The deer issues, we're constantly, Ken and I are constantly, when we're talking to our clients and whatnot, it's deer is a big topic of conversation in most areas in the Okanagan now. the deer situation. And so, what is your question?
Is there anything I can use to keep them out of the yard?
A dog. That sometimes works. If you own a dog and it's tethered outside and it's a big dog and it doesn't like deer and it starts barking when they come around, they won't stick around for that.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
Is it possible that if I went to the hairdresser and got some hair, would that help?
That's one of the things that they've suggested over the years, isn't it, Ken? There's also there's ivory soap and all sorts of things like that. Ken's a little bit more well versed on deer exudation than I am, but So
the thing we need to do is to slowly get our plants changed over to deer-resistant species. And there are actually hundreds and hundreds of different plants that the deer won't eat or can't eat. And so that's, part of the program. When we do landscape designing these days, at least, the more experienced landscape designers will design into their designs like all or mostly deer-resistant plants, especially if they're in areas where there are problems. And so that's a start. So it's one of these things where over time, the plants that are just being consumed, you need to replace them with plants that don't get consumed. And then that's sort of the ultimate change. And then other than that, you have to physically keep them out with deer fencing. But that's very difficult because they can jump 7 feet.
Trees around the perimeter, and they're all evergreens, and they've been eating them. And also, may I ask you another question?
Sure, you can. One more.
Yeah.
Yep.
2 sets of twins were born in my yard, so will that mean that they'll be coming steady? They'll stay here?
Oh dear, you've got issues there. Yeah, they probably will make their home there and be But I'll tell you what, you have to look around. There are some repellents like plant skid and the other one Bobex or something. Those those are effective if you use them diligently and on a regular basis for plants like roses.
They ate all the roses. I had a beautiful rose that's over 30 years old, that they ate it right down to the bottom.
Yeah. Well, that rose will regrow, but in order to keep the deer off it, you've got to keep spraying it regularly with one of those products. Ken, which one have you found that's more effective than the other?
Well, we just use Bobex typically in the garden, and it's one of these.
For me?
Bobex. Bobex.
Bobex.
Yeah, Bobex. And you can pick that up at garden centers.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate that. Have a wonderful year and God's blessings into the year.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you
so much.
Bye.
Yep. Bye-bye. Okay, we've got time to talk to Teresa Hodge. Good morning, Teresa.
Good morning. How are you?
We are well, thank you.
Yeah.
I hear you talking about pruning, and I have a question about my clematis, because normally I would cut it down early spring, whatever. Is it too early to cut it now?
I've cut mine back. I mean, I've cut my clematis back. And is yours one that blooms on new wood or old wood?
Well, I found out really easily. You came along a few years back, and you just chomped the heck out of it, and apparently it came back.
Yeah, and bloomed that year.
Way to find out.
Like what I've often said, if you don't know what type of clematis you have, prune it hard, prune it right down to 6 inches, and if it doesn't bloom, you shouldn't have pruned it.
Yeah, no, it blooms beautifully. It's actually gorgeous when it goes up and down.
There you go.
Doing its thing. But I just wasn't sure if I was, taking a risk by doing it a little bit earlier because, me, I'm anxious.
Oh, yeah. Well, I pruned mine in the fall. I've got everything pruned back.
I do that? Good. I didn't know.
That'll be a good test. Be a good test. I normally wait till spring, but I just wanted to get everything done in the fall this year and get it out of the way. And so all my grapes have been pruned. All my kiwis are pruned. I
haven't done raspberries yet either.
Yeah. Well,
I'm holding off on them.
Like Ken says, beginning of March, that's when you start turning the pruning schedule on.
I better sharpen those puppies then.
You betcha.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I know you're out of time here, so thank you.
Teresa.
And
Yeah.
Enjoy the hockey.
And go Canucks. Yeah, okay.
Awesome.
That's right.
Okay.
Take care.
Thanks, Teresa. Take care.
Yeah, Ken, you and I both pruned every month of the year at some point, and no catastrophic results have happened in my experience. However, it is known that if you prune, like we talk about the fact that if you prune hard in the fall, sometimes you're taking away some of the winter hardiness capabilities of the plant, and that can be problematic. But other than that, it's pretty, like old Bernard Moore said, lady asked him at a talk, when do you prune, Mr. Moore? And he says, when you have these in your hands. He pulls his Felcos out, and there you go. Yeah. That's when you prune.
Different types of pruning, right?
Oh, yeah.
When you're pruning and removing dead stuff, you can do that anytime. So, just talking about raspberries, is if you can identify the dead wood, which is often what you do with raspberries, cut out everything that's dead. Yeah. Well, then, you could do that anytime you can identify that. It's just easier in the spring when things start to bud out a little bit. And with other types of trees and things, certain species of trees, you just don't want to be pruning them while they're leafing out. So you can do it just before, that's okay, or just after they leaf out. So when they're fully, producing, beautiful leaves and whatnot in the summertime. So it's just one of these things. It's just good to know before you do pruning. Phone the garden show, double check, see if there is something we should be doing or not doing, and then do some reading. If you know what it is, if it's a rose, well, you can read about rose pruning. If it's fruit trees, you can. You can learn about fruit trees, and specifically, apples, okay, learn about apples.
And go and listen to people like Ken and people that are well-versed. I learned something, and we're going to have to take that bottom of the hour break here pretty quick here, but we will I should say the top of the hour, I just want to mention that years ago, I was speaking in West Bank at the senior citizens, and a gentleman asked me when to prune the walnut because he said it always bleeds. And I said, well, you can prune it any time. Bleeding doesn't hurt. Mr. Galatly puts up his hand and he says, I prune my walnuts after they have 6 inches of new growth in the spring and they never bleed. So there you go. Galatly, not the farm guy. Okay, we're going to take this break and we'll be back with the Garden Show after this short break. Well, there we go. We're back with you. Now, I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to my buddy Ken. He's now gone on his assignment, and so he won't be with us for the final hour of the show. But that's okay. We're going to get by. We got Gurinder here, and he's a star. So he'll and he's getting right on the ball here too. That's good. Thank you, Gurinder. It was interesting listening to that news broadcast about the number of. See, it rang a bell because we imported roses, carnations from South America, and we also imported when we were in the Florida. Well, Burnett's is still alive and well, and they're doing very well on Bernard Avenue here in Kelowna. But when we owned the Burnett's florist back in there, we imported flowers from also Israel. Israel had a big exporting roses in particular from Israel. So the jet age really has brought the floral industry to another level. Back in the day, I remember a big sign we had on the front of our garden center. We ship flowers. So back before the wire services like FTD and that sort of thing were on, we would actually ship flowers. People would, in other places in the Okanagan would want some flowers in the flower shop, and we would ship them because we would grow kind of wholesale flowers. So it's the industry's changed, but it just blew my mind. 1,900 tons of flowers going through Florida. That's a lot of flowers. It's a lot of loving going on for Valentine's Day, I'll tell you. Just want to correct that Seedy Saturday thing for Victoria. Victoria Seedy Saturday returns February 14th, 2026, kicking off the gardening season in Victoria. Since 1994, Victoria Seedy Saturday has been a cornerstone event for this local community and is the second oldest Seedy Saturday in the world. That's pretty cool. The event brings together gardeners, seed savers, farmers, and environmental organizations from across the region. Serves as a hub for seed exchanging, a marketplace for locally grown and climate-adapted seeds and plants, and a space for both formal and informal learning about gardening, climate-resilient food growing, and ecological stewardship. So it takes place at, the Crystal Garden, which is a famous historical place in Victoria. The Crystal Garden, Victoria Seedy Centres continue growth. The February 14th event will feature over 70 venues, an increase from last year, offering seeds, plants, organic gardening supplies, and community resources for gardeners of all levels. Cool. That's so I've got that straight now. When they put the notice out to me, it was February 1st, and I kind of got confused there. We were going to talk about, and we do invite your calls. I appreciate your calls because that's what it's all about. We've always treated the garden show as just two gardeners talking over the back fence about what's going on in their gardens, back and forth. We've learned more ourselves doing this show since 1983 than we've taught, I think. We've learned more, but there you go. And I've tried to retain some of it, too, which is difficult at my age, but we're getting there. Talking about bugs. I talked about the sensitivity regarding bugs, how many people are kind of turned off with bugs. But for instance, the 80% or more of all animal life, ants versus humans, the total weight of all ants on Earth is estimated to exceed the combined weights of wild birds and mammals, and is roughly equal to 20% of the total human biomass. There's 20% of our human biomass is the size of the ant biomass. That's just one insect. And so it's pretty amazing. It's no wonder food crops have been threatened by some of these millions of species, which has presented a challenge for farmers of both food and ornamental crops. Now, I'm going to go on from there, but we do want to make sure that we get our callers in because that's important to me. Stan, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. I have a question. In the old days, you will paint the trunk of the fruit tree. Mm-hmm. You go against the sun and also bugs. Mm-hmm. Is there anything in these days you can buy in the garden centers?
Well, just a latex paint, a white latex paint is what the farmers use to stop what they call southwest damage.
Yeah.
And that's from the sun. That's your when you get a cold day, snow on the ground, and clear skies, you get this. Yes. Yeah. But as far as chemicals that we used to use Saigon to paint around the bark at the base of the tree, and that would go up into the tree. Disulfiton was the active ingredient there. That's no longer on the market. But the other, I don't think the white paint is going to do much to. Oh, I know. There's one thing with the white latex paint will do on a young peach tree or any tree in the prunus species, peaches, nectarines, plums, cherries, that sort of thing. They paint that latex paint right at the base. They pull away the soil a little bit and paint that latex paint on the crown of the tree, the bud union and that sort of thing, because that's where the peach tree borer attacks. And the borer can't get through the latex paint because it's a tiny, tiny little thing when it catches out of the egg, and it can't get through that. So that's one of the things you can do is use latex paint to prevent the peach borer.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Just a regular latex.
Just latex paint. Yeah, you don't want to use an oil paint. That might be harmful to the tree.
No, of course not.
But a latex paint is fine.
But I still thought that latex was too heavy anyway. Okay.
No, though the latex paint's not going to hurt them.
It's because it's water-based. Okay.
It's water-based, yeah. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the call.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye now. Bye. Yeah, that's a good question. But we get back to our talk on insects and bugs. And so for so long, we've been fighting these natural rhythms by eliminating the pest. We just get rid of it, okay, see you later. This did and still does in many regions mitigate the problem. However, after many decades of this, we now realize working with nature to make this better is a far better approach. Working with nature eliminates a lot of issues, a lot of problems. I grew up in the industry. I grew up in the gardening industry, and it's been part of my life forever. I remember my mom giving me a lesson on how to remove the blossom stems from rhubarb to keep it producing. And this was the very first time I'd ever heard about a gardening suggestion, is gardening information, and I've never forgotten it. I always, when I'm doing the rhubarb, I think, I remember my mom when I was about 5 years old. She was picking the blooms off the rhubarb, and I remember also, the very first gardening advice that I gave out was when I was about 13, 14. I was hanging out at a local auto wrecker in Kelowna called Henry's Cars and Parts on Sutherland, and here in Kelowna. And when the owner's wife found out I was Ernie Burnett's son, that's my dad, she figured I knew the answer to how she can overwinter dahlias or dahlias. Of course, I had to ask my dad to get the right answer, but I still remember telling her what to do and how good it felt to be able to tell somebody what to do with a plant and how to manage it. And that was the very first gardening question that I answered. Of course, I leaned on my dad's knowledge for that, but I got her done. And also, so many of the answers to gardening questions back then regarding insects and disease issues was basically they just used a pesticide of some sort. We had shelves and shelves of pesticides in cans and boxes and bottles. They were loaded with diazinon, carbaryl, oxydemeton methyl, chloridane, DDT, furbam, and the list goes on and on and on, the stuff we had on the shelf. That's all gone. Fortunately, it's all gone. Most of the petrochemicals are gone that we relied on over the years, and they're now a thing of the past. Well, in Canada, we've eliminated all consumer chemicals, the last one being carbaryl, actually malathion, I think was the last one they took off. But the commercial side of things is going to be next to experience that too. So that's why a lot of these companies that are promoting and selling beneficial insects are really focusing on the fact that it's going to be chemical free pretty quick here. So what are we doing about it? So first of all hell has not broken loose. We're not totally inundated with insect problems since we stopped using these things. It's amazing. I thought, how can we do without diazinon? How are we going to do that? Well, we do just fine, thank you very much. And so we don't have the heavy-duty onslaught of insects. Well, why? There are challenges. The world does not come to an end. One of the reasons is simple. Ever since we backed off on spraying, we've stopped killing off all the beneficial insects. Yeah, there you go. I mean, you spray diazinon on your garden for some aphids, and what are you doing? You're killing all the good guys. And we'll talk about the good guys in a few minutes here. But we do have to take a short break, and we do invite your calls. We'd love to hear from you today. And I know it's the middle of winter, but it doesn't feel like winter. And I think we can all, after the show, we want to get out and do some gardening. And we'll take this short break. Wait for your calls. We'll be back after the break. Well, I don't like being negative because I just like being positive, because that's the whole thing. We all should be positive as possible. But I am getting a little bit concerned about the fact I look out the window here, and normally at this time of year it's white with snow. There's only a bit of snow way up in the higher elevations there. Other than that, there's no snow. And that is a problem. We need to get snow in the mountains because that's our water source. And it could be a rough one. So everybody, tell your friends, don't light matches out in the bush. Don't take your motorcycles out there and sparking away and get fires going. Just really be cognizant of the fact that we're going to have a dry year, and we got to watch it because, nothing worse than having a lot of fires out there and ruining forests and animals and homes. So, yeah, for sure. So here we have it. What are we doing about this bug situation? Because we don't have pesticides anymore to work with. Well, stop killing off the beneficials by using pesticides. So if you got any of these things in your garage that you're still kind of dabbling with, you might want to take it to the battery doctor or someplace that will recycle these things or dispose of them safely. Okay, we've talked about planting diverse species. Attracting beneficials isn't difficult, but take some thought and planning. You should plant many different types of plants and take other steps such as limiting the use of the pesticides. We to create more biodiversity in the environment. And beneficial bugs, insects, serve a purpose in your garden, either pollinating plants or hunting down other hungry pests that destroy garden plants. And of course, we all know that the honeybees and mason bees are beneficial, but there are thousands of other bugs and insects that are doing, I use the term bugs, but because that's what people call them, but bugs are a part of the insect family, thing. And there's lots of non-insects that are beneficials as well. But anyway, there are a lot of do-gooders out there. And here's the common beneficials you can do. So this is a group. It ranges from gnat size, 1.5 inches long, to 1.5 inches long, and there's almost one for every species of garden pest. Most often they're solitary, create individual nests in places such as in ground or in logs. The adults may lay eggs on or inside a host. That's why cleaning up heavily in the fall is now considered not the best thing to do, is to clean up all the debris out of the garden. Yes, there are some disease issues that can carry, but there's way more benefits to leaving that debris in the garden to harbor these beneficial insects and whatnot to get through the year. The examples, parasitic wasps, that's tiny, tiny little wasps that will lay eggs in aphids and consume the pest from the inside, which is quite interesting. I've got a movie on that. And they include the Ichninium wasps and the braconid wasps and the chalcid wasps. Also, syrphid flies, lady beetles, lacewings, spiders, and several more. And I cannot not mention hornets and wasps. You know, they have their own negative aspects. The stings, and for some people that's really, really bad to get a wasp sting that can put you in the hospital. But for the most part, if they're left alone and they're not, the nests aren't right where you are. If a nest is way on the back 40 and they're just out hunting and you see the solitary wasps around doing their thing, eating leaf rollers and things like that, then they're fine. And so they're not as, they do consume a multitude of insect pests. And besides cutting down or eliminating the use of pesticides and herbicides, we have impact on both desirable and undesirable bugs in the garden. Plant lots of different kinds of plants, okay? That's prioritize native plants, of course. You want to be careful that you don't plant something that's going to want to be the only guy in town. So do your research on each plant to make sure that you're not planting a weedy thing. And, there's... like the mint family, for instance, most of the mint family is really good for beneficial insects. And that includes Monarda, bee balm, So those things, but some mints are not something you want in the garden. They spread like wildfire and they become a real nuisance. So you've got to be careful what you're planting in there. But all the mint family, the Stokes aster is a good one. Goldenrod, solidago is a good one. Ironweed, the Veronia is a good one. Summer sweet shrub, that's Clethra, that's a good one. The aromatic aster is good, and buttonbush is another one that's good. Smooth aster is a good one, and of course the coneflower, the echinacea, is very, very good. And we've often talked about, and Ken actually turned me on to this. Ken Salvale, he mentioned this many, many years ago to me, that the white alyssum, the little white sweet alyssum that you buy as an annual, and it comes back every year in most cases. I have white alyssum come back in my garden every year, and I promote it. I let it go, do its thing. That is an ideal food source for the little tiny wasp, the predator wasp that comes in and cleans up on the aphid issues in the yard. But I've really noticed that there hasn't been a huge, huge increase in bug issues, if not a decrease in problems, as we've gone away from pesticides. So it's kind of cool as we go through this gardening life of ours, and we definitely the garden show itself, because we've been on the air since 1983, has totally changed its format, its focus on insect and disease control, and it's much more soft on the environment for sure. We want to mention that there's a possibility we're going to do a trip to the UK next year. Donna and I, we'll invite folks to come along with us. And we've got that getting lined up now. We're going to have a meeting on it fairly soon, and that's exciting. We've done a few, and to Europe, and mainly to the old country, the UK, England and Scotland. But we've also done the Netherlands as well, and we're looking at doing another one next year. The other thing I've got listed here, because it's very, very important, especially at this time of year when we've got a lot of indoor plant people working on their indoor plants, trying to keep them. Drainage is so important. Doesn't matter whether you're talking about indoor house plants or you're talking about plants in containers outside. Drainage is important. Unless you're a water lily, you don't want to be sitting in water. And there are some plants that really love wet feet, but on the other hand, most often you want to let your plants dry a little bit and breathe between waterings. And it's very, very important, that and fertilizing. But the more you fertilize it, the more drainage you need, because you want to wash away the excess salts. And very, very important. And it's all about that. That's where the plants can breathe. I mentioned earlier on that we're going to have a portion of the show with my dear wife, Donna. She is a real homemaker, and she's got lots of great ideas to keep the homemaker, for saving money, for preserving food, and all sorts of things like that. And the homemaker's tip that I have on hand here, and I don't think I've given it out yet, but to help keep greens such as lettuce and orchard, some chard and spinach and that sort of thing fresh, after you wash them, dab them off with a paper towel, and then take a fresh paper towels and wrap them up in a fresh paper towel before you put them in a bag and put them in the crisper. And you'd be amazed at how long that lettuce will hold up, and other greens. Last night we were having a little get-together, and my nephew, Catlin, Donnie's son, he said, I know that, because I mentioned this, what I was going to say on the radio this morning, and he says, well, every time we'd come over, Desi and I'd come over to your house to visit and play with your kids, and we decided to make a sandwich out of the fridge. Your greens were always so healthy and so crispy, and he says ours at home weren't the same. Well, there's old Donna with her tricks up her sleeve, and I've got another one for next week too, which is a good one as well. So I must say, wrap your greens in paper towels before you put them in the bags, and then in the crisper, and it'll keep them nice and fresh for a long time. Flower Power Tour coming up in 2026. That's going to be exciting. It's always good. It's in June, and this Flower Power Tour is something, any garden tour, whether you have one in Victoria or in Penticton or anywhere else, the Kelowna Flower Power Tour, the garden tour, is so handy for when you want to get out and get some ideas. You can go out and plagiarize like crazy. Just you go on the tour and make notes and say, wow, this is what I'm going to do here, this is what I'm going to do there. Sometimes people go home and they just revamp their whole yard because they've seen something that turns them on that's really, really cool. And so I highly advise that. That's a way down the line, though, man. The Flower Power Tour is, in June, so we don't need to talk too much about that at this point in time, because we've got time to think about it. But I do advise getting on one of those tours if you can. So, we're going to go back to the phone lines, and we've got Bonnie joining us. Good morning, Bonnie.
Good morning. How are you doing?
We're well, thank you.
Good. This is a question I'm dealing with right now. I'm trying to cut blackberries that are overrun a lot of the property that I'm on. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if there is a tip to how to eradicate them without damaging the rest of the environment.
Oh, you want to get rid of the blackberries?
massive amounts. Of
yeah. And once they get a hold, they are something else. Well, the only real way to do it is physically, get in there with a machine if you've got access with a machine, and dig them out of there. There's still on the market glyphosate, which you could use with the regrowth, and just dab the regrowth with glyphosate, the Roundup.
Would that be like to cut it off and then dab the?
Yeah, you can do that too. Roundup is one of the chemicals that's still on the market. It's still available. Health Canada has done lots of research on it and found, contrary to some of the things you see on the internet. But I'm not going to promote it. I'm not going to say this is what you should do. But it is a handy product, because that's one product that would help you get rid of that blackberry issue. But other than that, getting at it now. If you're not going to use the chemical, then getting at it physically and digging it with a machine of some sort, and then just keeping at it. And then when you get most of it out of there, you might even put black poly down, black plastic down, and keep it there for an entire season. And that will also, it'll do two things. It'll kill some of the roots and that, but it'll also encourage the roots don't realize that they're, they think that they're planted too deep because they've got the plastic on top. So they come up, the roots all come up to the surface. And so when you get the roots to the surface, you can scrape them off a lot easier, because they're not as deep. And we do that procedure with couch grass, quackgrass, and also mare's tail. The black poly on top of the ground encourages the roots to come up to the surface. So when you pull the black poly back, scrape all those roots off, get rid of them, and then put the poly back on and have the roots come back up again. And, that's something you can do as long as you've got the room to do it. But if you've got the situation where those blackberries are coming up in an area where you've got other plants that need to be preserved, that creates a more difficult situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a 10-acre farm, and they're just out of control here.
Yeah. Well, when people plant blackberries in the garden, I tell them, you got to babysit them and manage them and handle them over a period of time so they don't get out of hand, because they want to be the only guy in town,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just really hesitant to use a herbicide on them.
Right. And I'm not promoting or whatever, but I'm not also saying don't do it. So do some research, and painting the herbicide on there is a lot less problematic by spraying the ground with it. I would suggest that, but I hope you can get on top of that one. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we're working at it now.
Thank you,
so
dear.
much.
Appreciate the call. Bye-bye now. And we will take a short break. Invite your calls, 250-862-2525, locally here in the Okanagan. 1-888-780-4273 if you're calling from anywhere else. And we will be back with The Garden Show after this short break. And we're back with you on a beautiful Saturday morning. I mean, it's too beautiful, actually. We could use a little cool weather here. That's, it's 5 degrees in Kelowna this morning, 4 at UBCO at the weather station there. 6 degrees in Victoria this morning, 4 in Penticton. So highs of 6 in Kelowna are expected, 11 in Victoria, and 6 in Penticton. These are very warm temperatures for this time of year, even in Victoria. But pretty soon that flower count is going to happen in Victoria, and it's exciting for that. I'm really excited about taking our trip in April to go up to Comox and then down through into Salt Spring and then end up in Victoria. And we're going to see some of our friends there at Abkhezi Gardens, which is really exciting for us. We've talked about that for 3 years now that we've been with the Victoria folks, and we haven't had a chance to get there, but we're going to get there in April. I think it's April the 13th, something like that. We'll be in Abkhezi Garden, or 12th or 13th. It's a Sunday anyway, and looking forward to that. It's one of the beauties of the area, and there's lots of beautiful gardens in Victoria. There's no doubt about that, and on the island in general. But this is very special to us because we've had good conversations with the folks that are involved with that, and it's very cool. Tool maintenance. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Tool maintenance, which is very, very important. I mean, you spend money on tools. You got lots and lots of tools around, and you have the long-handled garden tools like shovels and rakes and hoes and that sort of thing, and they all have a long handle on them. And the key thing there, of course, is to make sure that handle doesn't get slivers. That's the worst thing a person can have, is working a rake or something and then all of a sudden jam a sliver right into your hand, and that's not a good thing. So taking some sandpaper, and one of the best sandpapers that I've found lately are the ones with the little foam rubber, little squares, and it's foam, and so the sandpaper wraps around round things and handles and that very easy, and run it up and down and get rid of all those slivers. You can start with maybe an 80 grit, and then graduate up. I think the maximum you'd ever need is about a 120 grit to make the handles nice. And then, of course, getting some oil on them, some kind of some preservative oil that keeps them soft and away from your problems with the slivers and whatnot. Keeping that oil keeps them from drying right out, and that's good. Now, as far as the metal parts go, a little bit of oil over the winter. In the fall, if you put a little oil on them, just motor oil is good enough, or 3-in-1 oil or anything like that. You put that on the metal parts to stop. When you buy tools or machine tools, and they come in, they've got this oil surface on them just to keep them fresh and good through shipping and whatnot. And so there's all sorts of things you can do, and I will carry on with that, but we do want to talk to Sandy, who's just joined us. Sandy, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, I'm okay. We haven't had any winter.
No winter at all, yeah.
So I went outside yesterday and checked my pots where I planted all my bulbs, and they're all sprouting.
Good. Yeah, no, I've got tulips and daffs and everything pushing in the garden. We're not as head as they would be in Victoria, but we do have them pushing through. My garlic's coming through. Yeah, so I think we're out of the danger.
Where I've got them is a little patio that's really protected, and it was over 12 degrees yesterday.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. And in some ways, we've still got a couple of weeks in February to get through. In fact, maybe more than a couple of weeks, maybe about 18 days or something like that. And that means that we could have, before the end of February, we could have a bad jolt. But it looks pretty good by the long-term forecast.
Do.
Yeah. Yeah, but what I'm concerned about, as I mentioned earlier, Sandy, I'm concerned about the fact we don't have the snow in the hills. And we do need snow in the hills. That's, no question about that.
Yeah, the magnolia trees look like they're about to pop, and
things
are way ahead this year.
And all of that, whether stuff gets frozen after it pops up or whether, whatever, all that's neither here nor there. That's not going to kill trees. It just makes our gardening life a little miserable. But the big thing with lack of water in the Okanagan especially, there's issues with lack of water even down the coast, even though they rain quite a bit. They do have infrastructure issues to keep the water handy. But here in the Okanagan, it's very serious. We need snow in the hills. If we don't have that reserved water, and we could be in somewhat troublesome.
We have to learn to save our gray water and water our outside with it.
That's true. That's true. The gray water saving would be, if a person does baths or showers or whatever and save that water and go out and water your plants with it. There are also, when I was playing in the band and we were living in Bermuda, there was no groundwater. The groundwater was saline. It was definitely not worth consuming as a drink, and it wasn't good for the gardens either. Although they did pump a bit of water for some of the lily farms and things like that. They pumped some of the groundwater for that. But what they did was every home in Bermuda has this roof that gathers the water and sends it down, and it's a cistern. They don't have basements there. They have a cistern that is chock full of water. And that water is drinking. In fact, we found out that the first year we were there, we were renting a house, and 3 guys playing in a rock and roll band was showering 3 of us every night, every day, probably 2 showers a day kind of thing. We all of a sudden ran out of water. We thought, what's going on here? So we phoned the landlord and said, we've run out. There's no water. The water's been shut off. Well, you've run out. You've used too much. And where's the water? Well, it's in the basement. There's no basement. It's a cistern. So we had to buy a truckload of water. Here we are from BC, and we had to buy a semi-truckload of a tanker truckload of water.
Yeah.
And I forget what it cost, but it was enough. And so then, of course, we were splashing, doing very splash washing.
Bucket showers.
Oh, yeah. We were being very, very careful. But that's the key. It's very important. And I hope
I've seen some of the Facebook I don't know, the homesteader places.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have the roof, they just build a shelter outside with the corrugated slanted roof.
Yeah. To gather
collect water that
collect
way.
water, yeah, you bet. No, it's definitely something we can take from the Bermudians and to say, well, here, maybe this is time we did it in the Okanagan.
Yeah.
Okay, Sandy.
Anyhow, just was really excited that all my things are coming up.
Oh, I know. I'm excited for you too.
Because they've been moved now 3 times.
Yeah, I know. Are you settled yet? Are you going to be settled pretty soon?
No, we're still at Dad's house, but
okay. Well, I'm hoping for the best for you.
Yeah, so
okay. Okay, dear.
Thanks.
Thanks for the call.
Yeah, bye-bye.
You betcha. And I think, Grinda, a little early, but I think we should take that last break of the day. We've got time for calls, so give us a shout, 250-862-2525, 1-888-780-4273 if you're calling from out of the Kelowna area. We'll be back with The Garden Show after this short break. There you have it. We're back with you for the final segment of the show, and we do invite your calls. We can certainly answer a few calls in this short session that's coming up till 10 o'clock. We are going to go to the phone lines right now, and we're going to talk to, I've got it right here, Yvonne. Good morning, Yvonne.
Good morning, Don. Happy February.
Hey, also to you, and happy Valentine's Day coming up.
Thank you. Hey, question, because you're talking about bugs here.
Mm-hmm.
Ladybugs, because I've heard that there's some that are detrimental, and so I'm trying to figure out, okay, am I supposed to be looking at the spots and getting rid of those ones, or what do we do about ladybugs?
Well, I'm not too sure. I would imagine there might be species that aren't might go after other beneficials or something like that. Mm-hmm. But they're the big ladybug killer is the larva itself. And I've had people come into the garden center and say, "Oh, Don, look at this! I've got this big bug on my tree eating my tree, and it's not eating the tree. It is definitely eating insects and very voracious, much more than the adult ladybug, actually, lady beetle." So I haven't. I might be just not knowledgeable enough about it, but I don't think there's a lady beetle out there that would be detrimental. There might be some that are better than others.
Okay.
But
then
I don't
great.
think there's a detrimental one. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. That's good then. I don't have to worry about counting spots anymore.
There you go. Well, this show is all about sharing information, and I'm going to do a little homework to make sure I'm not giving out bad information, which
okay.
I'm sure over the many, many years we've been doing this, the odd bad information has gone out. But anyway.
You guys are awesome. You guys are so great. It's so helpful. So thank you for
thank
all
you,
the
dear.
work you do. Okay,
I appreciate
have a great day.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye. And I've just got a message again from CJ from Saanich. Her parents used wooden barrels to catch the rainfall to use, and that's true. Barrels are great. Rain barrels, you can even buy decorative commercial rain barrels and that sort of thing to collect the water. The one thing about that is the Okanagan, there's not a lot of rain. So when you fill up a barrel, it's soon gone. One barrel of water is soon gone. And that kind of brings up just how much water we do use in the garden. If you're working from barrels rather than the tap, if you're dipping into the barrel, you can tell how fast that barrel disappears, and you can see how much water is used. And the problem, of course, is not necessarily, at the end of the day, the lack of water, although it is, we have to be very, very careful. It's the fact that we're using very expensive drinking water to water our gardens. This is very expensive water to create, to clean up and have as a source for drinking and bathing and that sort of thing. I guess in a perfect world, there would be two sources of water, like we had in our greenhouse. We had fertilized water. We had two taps, and the one tap was marked distinctly and tagged, and don't drink it. It's fertilized water. The other tap was drinking water, was clean water, was without the fertilizer in it. So that worked out well. However, when you've got unclean water, and there's clean water that hasn't been cleaned of bacteria and that sort of thing, and made into good potable drinking water, when you've got that situation going on, and you've got a tap there that even if it's marked, children might not read it. So that's the difficulty of having that double system. But you could do it in-house, as we were talking about before. You can gather your gray water, and you can just be water management. And the big thing is to water only things that need the water, and learn what needs water, what doesn't need water, what you can and how much water to do when you do water. Sometimes you think you're overwatering it, and you're actually giving it a good drink so that it lasts a lot longer. And in the long run, you're not using as much water as you might if you were doing it the other way. The fact is that a lot of purification of the water is done. There's chlorine. There's all sorts of different ways. In the Okanagan and Kelowna area, they do an awful lot of infrared work with cleaning up the water, or ultraviolet, not infrared. Ultraviolet lights will get. And I remember years ago, I had an ultraviolet light filter kind of thing that was used in ponds, and that still might be out there, but I remember that worked really well. The water that you're running through the pond pump would go through this ultraviolet light, and it would kill a lot of the problems, algae problems and things that happen, and keep the water clean of various other things too. That's an ultraviolet light filter, which is really what the city of Kelowna has got. An awful lot of our water goes through ultraviolet treatment, which is better than the chlorine treatment. But I think chlorine and other chemicals they're cleaning up that whole thing and making it much more environmentally friendly. I know chlorine can be very problematic for plants. Back in the day, I remember a plumber friend of mine, Ed Turner. He phoned me up and he says, "Don, all my beautiful cedars are dying, and they're really, really problematic. They're dying on one side, and some of them are dying on both sides, and they're just turning brown and whatever." I went over there and I said, "So Ed, these are established cedars," and I said, "Well, have you?" He said, "Well, I even got my own watering system." He says, "When I'm emptying the pool, I run it through my watering system, trickle irrigation, I said, "Well, hey, that might be the problem." And this was way back when I was in my 30s and learning still at the time. Well, I never stopped learning. And so I said, "Stop doing that. See what happens." And within 2 months, those cedars started to put new growth out, start shooting new growth. So if you've got a hot tub or a swimming pool and whatnot, don't flush the filters and whatnot, because that's really where the concentration of these chemicals are. Don't flush them into your plant material. Try and eliminate that, and not putting it into your plant beds, because once it's out in the environment too, it probably dissipates and it's fine. But when you're putting it directly onto your plants, not a very good idea. And so that's one of the experiences I've had over the years, and keep that in mind. I just want to remember to remind a listener named Nadine that my email was being rejected when I was sending her an email. And it was at iCloud. And for some reason, I was getting it kicked back. She wanted the amaryllis sheet that I was handing out. And I've revamped the amaryllis sheet to include the plastic-coated base, the plastic-coated bulbs, which not something I get excited about. I think, in matter of fact, it's probably not a good idea. I feel sorry for the bulb, actually. But you can peel all that plastic off and treat the bulb like you would a normal amaryllis bulb, and that sort of thing. So that's on my sheet, and I would really encourage Nadine, if you're listening, to give me a call, a shout on my phone, and I'll somehow get a way to get this sheet to you. My buddy Jerry DeHaze is having a ball right now. He's down in Mexico. He's spending a little time in PV, and he's working on his AI stuff that he's doing with our old bands and band pictures and that sort of thing. What a cool thing to see. He did a thing with my very first band that I was playing in, a band called Jimmy and the Rebounds, and I've given him one black and white photograph of the band playing in West Bank. It was my very first gig, and hey, he's created the band has come alive. It's now alive, and it's got a 16-year-old Don Burnett playing drums on it. So I'll somehow get that information to you that you can have a look at that. It's very cool, and so there's doing a lot of work with that. And of course, he's got his. If you look up on YouTube, type in at Kelowna 1965, you'll see his trip down memory lane, down the Bernard Avenue, and just have a quick look at that. I think you really enjoy it. Whether you grew up in Kelowna or not, I'm sure you will enjoy that. I just want to remind people that this next Saturday is the CD Saturday from Victoria. Don't forget that. And Kelowna's CD Sunday is coming up on March 8th, and that's going to be at the Parkinson Rec Center on Parkinson Way. And there's a $2 charge per adult to get in. Children under 12 are free. The parking is free. The food truck is on site. And it is an exciting day for Kelowna Master Gardeners as the Master Gardeners host this event to get a head start on spring. We'll be offering workshops for adults and activities for children, all for no charge. They'll be running our Master Gardeners seed swap table and invite everyone to participate whether they have seeds to trade or not. So come on out and meet local garden organizations, organic and heirloom seeds, and growers as a whole host of gardening-related products and information. Parkinson Center will be full, indoors and out, with vendors and exhibitors, plus a whole host of Okanagan Master Gardeners to get you started in the 2026 season. Now, the interesting thing is Ken Salvale's going to be there, so you can go and pick Ken Salvale's brains. And we've got one more call to answer on the line here this morning, and it's Bill. You're the last. Oh, pardon, Maxine. Oh yeah, it's Maxine. Sorry, you don't even look like a Bill.
I know, but that's okay. Listen, I have to be super quick.
Yep.
I just heard you, and I was going to surprise you next week and call in. I have you in the band and the link in my column this week.
Oh, right on.
And so Jerry sent it to me, and I have it, and I put it in the column so people can see where to go on the YouTube link.
Yep.
And, but if you wouldn't mind, he never sent me the photo.
Oh, the black and white photo?
Yeah, is there any way you can send that? And
I will send it to you. Just text me after the show, and that'll remind me, and I'll get that over to you.
Because I want everybody to see this because it's really cool.
It really is what he's done with that black and white photograph, and he's made a 16-year-old Don Burnett come alive.
Yep. So congratulations.
There you go. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Max. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Okay, buddy.
Bye.
Yeah. Take care. Yeah. Okay, we're going to start the tips and plants of the week. Ken's not here, so I'm going to do my tip and my plant of the week, as we do every week on The Garden Show. And my tip of the week is, if you come across used white Venetian blinds, don't throw them out. They make great plant tags cut up into various sizes. Ordinary lead pencil will last on them for years to come. And my plant of the week is the genus Gasteria. The Gasteria is named for its stomach-shaped flowers. Gaster is Greek for stomach, and that result from the swollen base on the corolla. Common names include ox tongue, cow tongue, lawyer's tongue, I like that one, and occasionally mother-in-law's tongue. That's Gasteria. Look it up, and there's lots of great Gasterias on the market that you can use and very easy to look after. And and we're going to talk now. We got to just do the Shigo moment of which we do every week. My Shigo moment is, as populations increase, competition for survival also increases. Increasing populations often collapse, not because of pressure outside the group, but from pressure inside the group. We will see you next week with more of The Garden Show.